Which week 2, if I had to say something about it, it would be described more as how you feel seeing the storm cloud slowly approaching. I think that's the best metaphoric way to put it. So day 8 was honestly just a pretty simple day. After waking up and getting ready, the first thing I did was head to the store and buy myself a new SD card with a much larger storage space than the ones that came before it. I just didn't have enough space in my card, which was concerning because, I mean, by week 1 I had already run out of space. To be fair, it was already a pretty used SD card, but I didn't expect it to take that much space. Boy, was I wrong. Anyways, so that's the first thing I did, and now I have what I guess is the first of many SD cards to come for the project. While I was at the store as well, I was debating on sort of whether to buy one of those clip-on microphones that you see, but considering how cheap it was, I honestly really doubted like the quality of it in a sense. So I guess I just sort of decided against it. Though maybe I will plan to look online and buy one of those that you can just sort of stick here, like the Rode ones, maybe. I feel like better audio is going to be one of the things I'm gonna have to focus the efforts if I do want to make better content in the future, because I feel like the camera is pretty alright for what I have. After coming back home, I was still scared of sealing the clay pieces in teacup, especially because of what had happened last time with the original tile, which I did seal it too early and thus the ink smeared and it turned out a different color. So I was sort of trying to decide against it, or I was just procrastinating it some more until the end of the day. But in that meantime, I opened up Pinterest and decided to sort of re-teach myself how to draw. I remember that last year I did want to teach myself how to draw, and I did set up like a pretty consistent schedule during the first 21 days where I would just draw at least a tiny bit 21 days to sort of build a habit, and it did work, but I just left it afterwards, so I didn't really learn much, and I do draw occasionally but nothing too crazy, so I guess I'm sort of gonna try to keep a consistent schedule. I do remember seeing a YouTube series that I liked a lot about somebody learning how to draw digitally, so maybe I can stick to that sort of regiment and follow that routine, which could be a pretty interesting development, especially now with the school day. That is gonna steal just a bunch of time from me, but it's also gonna have me more alert during the days, so who knows. So after procrastinating it for a while, I did decide to finally do what had to be done and painted the patterns on the clay pieces, and afterwards decided to seal them. I sealed them, and after seeing that they turned out alright and the paint wasn't smearing like the ink did, I decided to finally seal Teacup, which did take a while, especially with the 2 coats of Mod Podge that I had to put on the entire thing, but I feel like she turned out pretty good. As I was working on this final step, I did realize I was going to need a new project to work, and I wasn't just going to create Teacup and just leave it there. I was going to have to work on something else, and thus I decided to finally begin work on one of the goals on the board, which was airports. So I didn't really explain it in the week 1 video, I fear, but airports basically is an idea of a song that I had, which involved a lot of airport announcements, you know, the ones you hear whenever they're calling for the members of a flight.
Attention please. Passengers for British Airways Flight 21.
But I'll explain that more on day 9, which is when I actually got to work. For now, I had just set the base frame, or at least fully cemented the idea and fully cemented my commitment to doing it, and then went to bed. Day 9 started pretty early. I did sleep at 3 a.m. that day and was woken up at 6 to go across the border, ate some Jack in the Box, and after that little endeavor, I slept another 2 hours because I wasn't just going to go with 3 hours of sleep during my day, and then afterwards began to finally work on the song. My main focus, or my main inspiration, was a lot of OMD's 80s albums, which was mostly Architecture and Morality and Dazzle Ships. I'm pretty sure Architecture and Morality has been in the background of one of my videos, correct me if I'm wrong. But I did want to sort of focus on a lot of their songs, especially ones that were just really simple, like the works of Navigation, Time Zones, Submarines, and Stand Low. So with that in mind, I'd already listened to the songs enough to know more or less what I wanted, and so I got to work. What I did is recorded some of the layers, which was a synth bass, which was some slow strings, some I guess you would call it percussion, some bass, some other stuff. I grabbed all of the airport announcement compilations that I wanted, and just sort of began to record every bit individually. I know that my piano has MIDI conversion, and I did buy a cable for it earlier in morning on day 8. But as I realized that my piano wasn't going to be able to translate like the voice, I just decided against it and decided that the best way for me to actually do the vision that I wanted was to just place my phone on top of the speaker, play the layer, I guess, and then just play back the recording while I just sat there in silence waiting for the recording to be over. And it did work. Afterwards, I just compiled it all in Audacity and made the first demo. All of these demos, or at least a cut version, are available on my Twitter in case you want to hear them. So that's basically what I did for day 9. Up until like very late, I was recording a lot of recordings, tweaking a lot of stuff, planning on what elements of the songs that I wanted as an inspiration I was going to incorporate. I was sort of measuring measures and stuff like that. Nothing really too complicated. I don't really have that much experience with music, which I did plan on making a video on that way before when I was part of a music project where I did make the music video. I was planning on making a video on that as well, but I guess nothing really came to fruition. So I ended the day by actually compiling the first demo. It was really rough. I didn't like re-record the recording, but rather I was recording myself playing live, which means that you can hear a lot of the key presses. But afterwards I compiled it, struggled a lot with Twitter's, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I don't know how much time they give you, I think it's 2:20. Just try to cut it down in order for me to post it after like a billion years, and finally went to bed. So day 10, I woke up feeling sort of motivated. I woke up pretty early, which was I think 8 to 8:30. But then I noticed a pattern that had been repeating itself over the last couple days, and spoiler, is going to be repeating itself way into the distance. I'd wake up pretty early, and then I just watch reels or get into Twitter or just watch some videos, and then eventually I'd just be procrastinating getting my day ready, which is something that worried me a lot because I was in really no position to be wasting time, because I knew that I didn't know at the time, but I knew that eventually time of vacation would be running out, and I was basically wasting 4 hours every day doing jack shit. I knew of a friend of mine who actually deactivated his Instagram account during vacations, which I mean, kudos to you. That's a pretty bold decision to take. We were all worried about you, but I wasn't planning on going that far. I mean, I am sort of ignoring a lot of my Instagram messages, because I mean, it's really just my bro sending me reels, so it's not like I'm gonna sit there and just watch them while time goes by. I was trying to get myself motivated to do stuff, and I guess sort of the best way to do it was just to put my phone in do not disturb and just sort of try my best to don't touch it. Especially this day was no day to sort of procrastinate, because I did have another portfolio deadline January 10th, which was really scary, so I immediately got to work. I did have an outing in the evening, and by the time that came through, I was sort of halfway done, which I was confident enough that that would eventually be done. Spoiler, something happened with that portfolio. I remember logging into the applicant portal and just not seeing it there as like a requirement, neither seeing like the slide room link, which was pretty worrying, and it's still worrying now in week 3 that I am recording this, because I never really did see it. So I'm worried that it's gonna be another application rescinded because of portfolio issues. Anyways, I went to eat at this restaurant here in my city that's apparently run by like a master chef, and I guess I'm just taking people's word for it. And I mean, it was pretty alright. I guess maybe it was a little bit more sophisticated than my common palate, I guess. I mean, or my especially bad palate. But I just thought that a lot of the food had a lot of this vinegar aftertaste, which I didn't really like, but the food was pretty good anyways. After getting home from that, what I began to do was began polishing that first rough demo, and by that I really just meant re-recording everything. A lot of the first times that I did play this stuff, I wasn't really familiar with how my fingers should move, but I eventually got that down after just 10-15 minutes of practicing positions, and then afterwards did what I told you, which was to actually record bit by bit and record the recording so I wouldn't have any more key presses, which actually improved the quality of the audio a lot because it wasn't relying on me sort of fumbling my way around the piano. In the late evening, we did go to this Japanese food place as sort of trying to work a replacement for that place that I mentioned in week 1. Boy, did they want to go out with a bang by serving me raw chicken. Twice. We went to a food truck park, whatever. And it was honestly pretty good. Obviously, they did take a little bit of a while, especially because it is a pretty small business, but honestly, the food was pretty good. So, in case that was a win-win. After coming back, I decided that I wanted to grab what was my demo video and sort of better it. I wanted to add a CRT effect, and after fumbling my way through some tutorials, I finally did it, edited the song, and then made the Twitter cut, which is also available on my profile. I'll put the 2 links in the description in case you do want to see them. I was made aware of a song that follows a similar thematic by C418, so I guess great minds think alike, right? So after adding the CRT effect, that was basically all I did. It was already pretty late, so I closed my computer and went to bed. So the day started just as the one before, except without the portfolio working, which meant I woke up pretty early, procrastinated, and then started my day pretty late at I think like 1, which is now even more exceedingly late than my exceedingly late week 1, which is alarming. I started the day by eating the previous day's leftovers, which were still pretty good, though funnily enough we would go back there later in the day, 2 days in a row. The food was still pretty good. But in between that, me getting ready and me eating, we had a lot of time, which was I think from like 1 to 5, which is a pretty long time. So I was invited to paint in my sister's room, so that's what I did. I was inspired by this stupid video of a Jack Russell doing like a backflip, and did this painting of 3 Jack Russells in a wheel, sort of like the reduce, reuse, recycling symbol. I honestly like it a lot how it turned out. I think the cell shading that I did was pretty good, but that's just again my opinion on my own work. Still, bonus points so you can figure out what album cover it's behind those dogs. See if you can get it. Afterwards, what I said is what we went to eat back at the same Japanese place we had gone the day before. Though coming back, however, the painting did not stop there, and I did produce one more thing before going to bed, and it was this. I was inspired a lot by the work of Instagram illustrators, which you can see here, especially these. And I do have some notes on it, especially that I wish I could have made the colors more vibrant, but I was working with what I had, and by that I mean both physically and the knowledge. Didn't really know the basics of what is illustration, how to make it more as vibrant or childish, which is sort of that style I was going to. Of course, a lot of that is digital drawing, which I do want to get myself into, but I'm not sure if I should buy a Wacom tablet, though people say I should, or just work on traditional until I have sort of built up the confidence to go back to digital. We finished the night off by going to the Van Gogh experience. It did come here to Mexico, and especially my city, which is pretty good. It's pretty good that my city is getting a lot of these, I guess, international events. I had already gone there, but my mom hadn't. So in the end, we ended up just basically taking her. My sister just rushed through the entire thing and went to paint, and I just stuck by and began to listen to the music, which I was really inspired, especially by this, but the experience was still pretty cool. So day 12 was certainly an expedition. We woke up pretty f***ing early at 7, which I mean isn't the earliest I've woken up this week, but it was still pretty early. Put on some warm clothes and headed to Julian, California. I had gone there when I was like 7, 6. It's been a long time, basically. That's what I'm saying. The only thing I do remember about that place was playing in the snow, like on the roadside, heating my hands in one of those like ovens that they have in the stores to keep people warm, and crashing into another car. But now I was actually like conscious and could go back and actually live the experience myself. We started off by going to an antique shop, and it was honestly pretty fun. It had a lot of stuff in it, and I did find a watch that I really liked, though unfortunately it was missing the back piece, so I just didn't end up buying it. Afterwards, we went to this it isn't gigantic, but it's a pretty massive store called the Warm Hearth. And I just have to say that is probably the prettiest store I've ever encountered, especially the backside. I was just astonished by it. I mean, it's a pretty cool spot. We found a lot of cool things in there. And at the end, I just ended circling back just because I wanted to spend a little more time down there. I did end up buying a jacket though, so that's pretty cool. Afterwards, we went to what was a sweets shop, and I did end up buying, which is this sort of apple, I forget the name, boysenberry cider, which is pretty good, but because could only buy a gallon, that meant that I was going to have to drink it very sparingly throughout the rest of the month. And that's what I've been doing. I've been serving myself like these tiny glasses, maybe half with a little bit of ice, treating it as if it was some sort of spirit, and drinking it very slowly. We ended that trip by buying one of the iconic like Julian apple pies, apple boysenberry pie, which was purple, which was kind of shocking. That was pretty good. I'm not like a big fan of pastries or like sweetbreads in general, which is a shock to most people, but I'm just not really a fan of that type of stuff. That was pretty fucking good. So if I ever go again, I will certainly be buying that again. And day out by just going to some other stores outside Julian, which is I think in El Cajon. I bought some of these like pan chains, which I have been wanting to use for a long time. I just never found the occasion, but the occasion would eventually come. Afterwards, we headed back home. Though we did make one stop at Target to remove those pee stains that were in my carpet. Thank God. We arrived home at like 6, and I had planned to go to a bazaar with a friend at 8, so I went to pick him up where his family was eating at an Italian restaurant. They did end up inviting me a slice of pizza and a drink, so thanks for that. And then afterwards we went and had a pretty good time until what was basically midnight between the bazaar, the road, and his house. So it was honestly a pretty fun day. So January 13th, as I said, I was out when the day technically began, so I came home by like 1 a.m. and then promptly fell asleep instantly. Surprisingly, as a sort of parenthesis, this is the shortest day that I written of because I procrastinated writing the 13th, the 14th, the 15th until the 16th. So I really have like one paragraph and it's just measly, so this is going to be a pretty short day. Basically, to what the day boils down, according to my one paragraph, is that I took my sister to get her hair dyed because the school wasn't allowing her red color. And then what? And then I just continued my work on portfolios by taking some good pictures of some other stuff. On the way back home from, I don't know exactly, I did have the idea to make a song basing myself on another two of OMD's works, which is Sacred Heart and Distant Space Between Us. But nothing really came out of it because I was so focused on airports. And that is pretty much it. I don't really have much to say about January 13th. I guess this is a reminder or an example of what happens when I do leave the journaling out until the very last moment. I just wish that this won't happen again, though I am glad that I remembered at least a little bit about the day, because that would have been absolutely disastrous. The one important development that happened on day 13 especially was on the emotional level. After making the initial demo for airports, I sort of began to be in this stage that I usually find myself a lot, which is that I make the demo and I guess sort of my mind considers like the project done, and I just cannot generate any new ideas or how to polish that work, which honestly just frustrates me a lot. Knowing that I have something which can be pretty good, but just not knowing what to do with it happens a lot, and that has led me to leave a lot of my projects unfinished. I still have the reminder there on the board just so that I don't forget, but I just feel that music, especially brings out a lot of the creativity in me, but it also is so frustrating to deal with. When I have something good, I do have the time of my life, don't get me wrong, but coming up with that idea especially is just out of my mind, and I began to feel really bad on an emotional level. I do remember coming back on my way home from dropping off my sister at her guitar lessons, ironically. I was just feeling like shit, honestly. I was like thinking of this creative rut that I was in, and I just couldn't like see myself out of it, I guess. Though I knew that eventually things would pass, I have been stuck in creative ruts a lot, and I have dealt with all of them essentially by just letting time pass, so I knew that this would eventually end. But I couldn't just deny that the frustration was there, because that was just gonna lead me nowhere. So I just sort of decided to leave airports to rest for just a small amount of time, so I could clear up my mind on what I wanted to do, or how I could polish it, or just think of the beast. I just think of something else, have a good idea, and sort of develop it instead of uh, getting stuck on not being able to do something. And this would also arise not only in music but in other aspects. As said, I was trying to keep myself to like a strict like routine for drawing, though that hasn't materialized yet. But I was drawing, and I just couldn't bring myself to really draw anything again, which was a sharp contrast from the day before where I had drawn a lot. And so that contrast of feeling like absolute dog shit and not being able to do stuff just began to pile up, and it was pretty frustrating. Though, as eventually I knew that things would pass, especially because I had other stuff to deal with. So day 14 began as a lot of the other days on this weekend began, waking up early, procrastinating, getting ready. As I was making myself breakfast, and just a pretty measly sandwich, I began to reflect a lot on what I just told you about yesterday, and decided to sort of get back into work. So I haven't made one of these updates in a long time right now. My room is kind of a mess. I feel like week 14 has definitely been a lot less productive than week 1. Though I sure do hope that I do get to see past that. I did sort of begin working on this, especially this. I mean, I've also been decorating my room, but I mean, you really can't compare the yield of week 1 to what has been the. I mean, week 2 I've also done a lot of stuff. So, emotionally wise, I have been feeling a tiny bit down. Hello, kitty. Feeling incapable of doing a lot of stuff. And thus has been my emotional down. Though we're still thriving. I do something, anything, just to get my mind off of things and prove that I could still produce creative work. What was I gonna do exactly? I want to do another one of these, maybe experiment with another animal, but I do want to do another one of these. So I'll see what I'll do. The animal that I chose as an inspiration for this one was the marcor, however you pronounce it.
Marjor.
Especially because of the corkscrew horns. I don't have footage of it because especially this week, I sort of struggled a lot with documenting. I was so preoccupied with other stuff, especially that I had going on, that I just sort of didn't record much. I ended the day by finishing that painting, taking a photo of it, but it was already too late to post it on Twitter for it to have really any impact, and my camera couldn't take a really good picture of it without daylight, so I left that there. I experimented with the functions on my piano, sort of trying to think of that B-side again, now that I was sort of in a creative, I wanted to just keep the momentum going. I found some cool stuff on the arpeggio side of things. I did make a little sheet, if I can show it to you. So again, back with a messy handwriting, I mean, you can't really understand anything here. But what I basically just want to show you is I have a lot of the numbers of the functions and their names, which just began with me like experimenting a lot on those repeating patterns, because I just sort of wanted to get something going out. But that was basically all I did. Press a few chords and just leave that there. However, the reason I believe is I was stressed out about all of this was because I knew that the first day of week 3 was portfolio day, and there was no getting out of this one, which meant that I had that lingering sort of stress. Even though I had already worked on my portfolio, I just knew that whatever was ahead, I was not prepared for it. So I ended the day by sort of meditating about that, getting in my head that tomorrow, or I guess the next day, even though I knew I was going to go out in the morning and come back in the evening from, I guess, 8 to 2, more or less, 10 to 2, I knew that I just had to get to work and I could not come out until I ended. Though that is for week 3. So that ends us off week 2. Week 2 just became a lesson on what is artistic passion and commitment. Especially because I saw that on week 2 I began for the first time to actually slack off on this project in general. I knew that I had to edit the week 1 retrospective, but that would not come into fruition because I was just so preoccupied with other stuff as well. Though I know that isn't like a valid excuse or even a justification. That is how I felt and that's how things happen, so I can't really do much about that anymore. Though this does serve as a lesson for me to learn something from, which is that I shouldn't really let how to put it, I shouldn't get frustrated a lot about these things, especially because I know that art and especially music take a lot. What the fuck is falling? I thought that teacup was gonna fall over on my head. Anyways, I do know that it takes a lot of time, and I feel like what I'm trying to do is not because of the challenge. I'm not blaming the challenge for this, but I'm blaming how I usually do things, which is that I guess I'm just sort of trying to rush things. A lot of art cannot be rushed. You just have to sit there through the process and enjoy it. Though this also put some ideas in my mind, which was that I didn't really know much about music, so it might be actually worthy to go back and relearn a lot of the stuff that I had. I used to do orchestral composition, and I do have some works to my name, I guess, but I guess I just sort of need to go back to basics and relearn a bunch of stuff, which also gave me the idea for the project of relearning the piano, but I haven't really thought of adding that as a serious contender to the board. Right. So I was saying that week 2, I feel like this video maybe feels especially rushed. I have put myself in this position where procrastinating editing the video of week 1 just held me back so much. Now, if you see the date on this video, you can see that I am already deep into week 3 as of the recording, and I'm not even talking editing, recording of this video, which means that I'm already in deep waters schedule wise, which is why you might see that the upload dates might be a little janky. But I did want to say that the video did look rushed, and I'm sorry because I am in this position where I can talk about future events, or at least future events in your perspective, when I already lived through them. So it feels weird to allude to things that already happened instead of trying to build up to things that haven't happened yet. But I do really plan on fixing that. Because I do plan on recording the week 3 video on schedule, which is Tuesday, 21st of January. I just want to thank you everybody for watching until the end. These videos definitely do take a long time to make. Not only do I have to narrate and document the events of a week, but also I have to record this and edit it. Knowing now in week 3, these videos do take a long time to edit. Any support that you can show is greatly appreciated. I guess I'll see you guys on the retrospective of week 3, where hopefully I'll finally be on schedule again. I won't have this situation of talking about past events as if they were in the future, and I can actually build up to something unexpected. But as for now, thank you for watching. See you guys in week 3. Stay strong. Bye. Did it cut out? No. Beautiful.